Great.
All right. Today we're talking about something kind of, we were thinking about calling it overlooked. It's not really overlooked. You're probably going to listen to this topic and be like, I don't overlook that. But this is the non-electronics components of a good guitar. So we're not talking about woods. We're not talking about electronics, pots, pickups, even though we make pickups. If you don't know us, we are Porter Pickups. You can find us at the links below. But we're talking about some of the other elements that make a guitar really, really good. So beyond meat.
Yeah, there you go.
There's a good way to put it. So some of these elements that separate, that's probably the best way to say it, right? Is it separates a guitar one from another. Mm-hmm. Is that fair?
Yeah, or like puts it in a different category or league, I guess, than maybe some of the other ones.
Yeah, and what might you look for as a consumer as you're looking for guitars, as you're looking to find that? So we'll jump into that topic. Off the top, though, we got to mention something we do on the podcast is this special form on the website that you need to fill out. As we're here sweltering in the shop, it's very hot. So if it looks like we're sweltering, we are sweltering.
Yeah, we're a little bit wilted, but
yes.
We are talking about, of course, the Pickup Chooser. So it's kind of like mimics the experience of someone walking into the showroom and playing through the guitars, and then we say, oh, you're kind of looking for this? Check this pickup out. Or, oh, this is where you want to be. Mm-hmm. Well, try this, the S90 set in your Strat if this is what you're trying to get out of your Strat. So it is kind of our online virtual, you're coming into the shop and chatting with one of us, and we're just trying to do the best that we can to match you up with a pickup that we make that will suit your style and your playing and what you're trying to get out of your instrument.
Very nice. That was well put.
Oh, thank you.
Better than I normally do on these podcasts. But it's sort of the infomercial, if you will. We really don't like to spend a lot of time like tooting our own horn, but this is just a service to fill out, to talk to one of us and to get a recommendation. So I've actually got a couple over on my desk that I'm looking at right now that I've got to get to. That's a good reminder that I need to get to them today or tomorrow, just to reach out to you. But it's fun. We enjoy having that conversation. If you don't want to talk to us, you can put that you want to just get a text on there now. So we added that to the form. So we can just text you and say, hey, here's a recommendation, take it or leave it. Really low pressure. We're not going to harass you. It's just a fun form to fill out. Okay, so it's not going to be like a super long show necessarily, but let's start breaking down some of these other elements other than electronics, other than woods that make or break a guitar or get it into Marco standards or get it into Brian standards or whatever other gear snob that you happen to know.
Yeah, well, to me, I think this is a very important part of the guitar, as that is the parts that you're like physically touching with your hands. I'm talking about like the surface of the bridge, and depending on your style, if you're like palm muting a lot, then you're kind of like on that bridge. And so it's got to feel comfortable so that you can do what you need to do. And by that same accord, like the tuners as well, they're all different. Some of them, you can tighten them and get them to where you like the feel of it. I think everybody likes a different feeling tuner. Some people like them real snug and feel like, you can barely turn it and it'll adjust. But some people like them really loose so that they can just crank the string winder and do a string change in like 2 minutes or whatever. But these are the pieces that you're like handling, that you're connected to the instrument with. I think like the bridges and the tuners. Yeah. Like the nut is super important.
Yeah.
If you like trims, like even down to like what springs you put back there. I know that there's a lot of aftermarket mods to throw different coated springs with different tensions, just so that you can really make your instrument yours, or just get you closer to how you need it to be,
right,
to do what you need to do. Everybody's different, I think.
Yeah, I think about like the price point. Sometimes you think about guitar price points, right, where you're thinking, well, I can get a Strat style guitar for $300. Why would I spend $1,500? Why would I spend, and there is sort of a diminishing return rule sometimes with certain brands, I think. But when it comes to that stuff, you're not going to put a $15 set of tuners. If you've tried a $100 set of tuners or a $150 set of tuners, you no doubt feel the difference. You feel like the more fine tuning, it's not as sloppy. The gears are better. Maybe it's just as simply as made in the USA versus overseas, or made with higher quality components, made a higher quality metal. sometimes it comes down to the plating on it. You know, the plating, if it's a chrome set of tuners, it's got to look nice, or nickel, not just kind of this cheap knockoff stuff. So I think those are some of like the finish parts of it. But I think about, as a guitar maker, as someone who mods and messes with guitars, we both do this. We've tended to gravitate towards these higher end guitars simply because we don't have to work on them, right? Like,
Yeah.
we're changing the pickups out on pretty much any guitar that we buy, no matter what the price point. But we're also not wanting to think about, is the nut cut right? Did it just, we were talking about this earlier today, while we were building stuff, is that, you know, is it just being squished down the line, like, oh, to the next station, we've got to get these out as fast as possible? Or are they actually taking the time to put into that? We talked about like the Plek machine, you know, going that extra mile to Plek something maybe that is just going to play perfectly out of the box, as opposed to, well, it's good enough, and you kind of shove it down, because everyone hates the good enough thing, right? Sometimes you get what you pay for. Sometimes you get the bargain, you know, the diamond in the rough. I was going to say bargain in the rough, but that doesn't make sense. So sometimes when it comes to the guitars, you're really wanting to get that nice solid. If it's a tremolo, like you mentioned, a nice, really good quality metal block for the trim too, right? As opposed to just some crappy metal. You know, even in our case, with building pickups, the components, you know, an actual real nickel silver base plate versus a brass base plate, or versus a nickel silver cover versus a brass cover or something. You know, those kind of things, those elements all make a difference. Now, I don't know if you would put a percentage on the difference that they make. Let's just talk about hardware first, and then we'll kind of get into like the fret part of it, because I think the fret part of it is obviously pretty high up there. But what would you say, like, okay, you get a guitar that's got the top of the line hardware. Would you say that's like a 5% better, 10%, 20, 30, 50? Where would you kind of land on that? Just off the top of your head, thinking of a couple guitars in mind.
Yeah, gee. I think the percentage is actually pretty great. I mean, I would say it's like 25, 30% for me, because it is what you are interfacing with. Like, all things aside, that is what you are like, that's what is joining you to the instrument, or that is your physical like coupling point. So I think it's got to feel comfortable for you and what you require. And that doesn't necessarily mean, like, you know, if it's that small of a percentage, you could still play the guitar, you can still rock out with it, you can still do what you need to do. It makes the sound. But it is enough of a percentage where it's going to be why you choose this guitar over that guitar, I think. And if you're in the store, you're like, well, this one has the original Floyd Rose, and this, well, maybe it's like, I could get this guitar and a couple pedals or something. Like, I would get the nice Floyd Rose just based on my experience that I've had with the Floyd Roses, and some of the licensed ones can be a little bit chintzy, and you can have some issues, especially if you have a heavy hand and over tighten things like someone. But
no one we know. Yeah.
But I think the percentage is actually pretty big, and and if it is nice hardware, it's not going to hold you back. Or I've had hardware that is so chintzy that it kind of plating flakes off, and then there's sharp edges, and then you're suddenly bleeding all over your guitar. And then, I mean, it looks metal, but it's not, you know, you want to be comfortable. Good. It shouldn't hurt you. Your guitar shouldn't hurt you.
They shouldn't hurt you. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting, because I do feel the same way. You know, sometimes there's the argument like wood is wood, right? Like, if it depends on, and we have thoughts on that, which we'll get into in another show. But, you know, if you have your basic guitars made out of the same wood, but you put nicer hardware on one, oftentimes that does help the resonance of the guitar. It helps just the quality, the tuning stability. If all of those elements between the tuner, the nut, and your bridge are there, it's going to stay in tune. We have some guitars that I've almost run through the bandsaw. I won't name the brands, but they've just not held up. And you would argue that they have the same woods as my American Strat, but it's not anywhere close.
Yeah.
So what are the differences? And each one of those elements makes up the difference. So the big one for me, and the thing I look at with every guitar, is the frets, the fretwork. Obviously, level frets are what you want. Not only with that hardware, getting it intonated and set up, but you want to have no issues with playability. I'm like obsessed with fret ends on guitars. I'm always looking at the ends of the frets and seeing how they are. it makes a little bit of a difference, but it's more of an art form thing, you know? So the frets and those elements, what do you think about the fret stuff in general? Because I think that you've also been smitten by the fretwork sort of thing. Like, if it looks nice, it probably is nice. That's not always the case.
Yeah.
But you can tell that, I mean, you know how much time we spend sometimes on fret ends just in our amateur ways. And then you see these companies it's like a perfect little mirror or a ball at the end. What do you think about the fret element?
Well, I think also it's very important because that is also something that you kind of can like feel, or ideally you don't feel it and you're just off to the races playing. But I think by nature of how long I've been playing and kind of what demographic I'm in, like I've had to use, I'm going to say like less than perfect quality guitars and frets, and then just elements like makes the fret ends pop out. And I don't really like buy a lot of specialized tools, but I have got like nut dressing files and kind of friend end files, because that's the kind of thing where I'll be sitting up in my room and I just feel one fret is like sticking out more than the other. So I'll go in and kind of like clean it up just to where it feels the way that I need it to. So I think that's also very important. And it's funny, I have a bass that I've been using that it was kind of like rubbing the first fret was really rubbing my finger raw, and I almost had like a callus just at the base of my finger, just because we were playing a lot and maybe it's been hot and I was sweating a lot. So it was like sanding the end of my finger off, or the little bottom segment. And so first thing was I just like tucked the nut down, and I just needed to be functional. But I think that the frets are kind of up there too, and they gotta feel comfortable.
Yeah, and how would you guys put the percentage? You can leave this in the comments on our YouTube video. What are the different percentages? Is the wood 5% to you? Is the hardware 50%? Is the frets 30%? Like, where would you guys put these categories? Maybe we'll actually list them out and kind of have a debate about which percentage we think is more important than others on guitar, and maybe we'll do that in a future show. But thank you guys for watching, for listening, for being a part of this. Leave your comments again on the YouTube channel. How much do you think all of these things, do you think hardware matters? None at all? Do you think it only matters a little bit? Which piece of the hardware do you think matters more, the tuner or the bridge? Let us know in the comments below, and we'd love to have a discussion with you down there in the comments on the YouTube channel. Thanks for checking us out. If you're just finding this video, again, we are Porter Pickups, makers of pickups, which we did not talk about today, which is fine. We talk about all sorts of things not pickup related. So thank you guys for being a part of this, for listening, and let us know your thoughts below.
Yep. See you all next time.